Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie. I'm a book loving, notebook hoarding literacy teacher educator on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. And this is the Get Literate podcast, a podcast where we explore the power of reading and writing to cultivate a life we love. Each week, I offer a bit of bibliotherapy and share 3 books you need to know about on a bookish theme to fuel our reading hearts and help us grow through what we go through. But that's not all. I also invite you to extend those bookish themes into your own life through notebooking, lifelong learning, and creativity to experience the life-changing magic of reading in our lives. And the best part? Each episode is only 20 minutes or less, so you can spend less time listening and more time reading. Now, on to today's episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of the Get Literate podcast, 3 books that will take you places. Now, admittedly, I have always been sort of a homebody. Growing up, I never had grand ideas of leaving my hometown and exploring the world. I didn't even know the places that were available to me to travel to. It was just something I didn't even think about. Our summer trip to Maine, the quick visit to Pennsylvania Hershey Park, well, it really was all that I needed growing up. It really was all that I needed even as I became an adult and a mother. I loved our beach trips to Maryland. I loved going to Virginia Beach, but I never really had grand plans to visit anywhere far away. That is until COVID. COVID made me realize being forced at home is different than choosing to stay home. And being forced to stay home for so long has definitely given me a serious case of wanderlust. It didn't help that I became slightly addicted to a Facebook group called View from My Window during quarantine. This amazing Facebook group was filled with people who were posting literal views from their actual windows all over the world every day. There were places posted that I didn't know existed. There was beauty posted that I had no idea was even available, especially not to me. That group definitely fueled my wanderlust, and I now have this newfound urge to go anywhere. Unfortunately, that is just not in the cards quite yet, although I do hope to see more travel on the horizon. But since this is a bookish podcast, there is one place that I do travel quite often, and that's through my books. Right? Books take us places. They take us to new locations, new countries, new time zones, new time periods, new ways of living, new cultures, new families. Books are an escape, and books have the potential to take us places that we could never, ever go in real life, or we haven't ever known that we would want to go there in real life. I'm thinking of Jennifer Niven's All the Bright Places. I had no idea I wanted to go to Indiana so much and find all of those bright places. Or Jenny Colgan. She cemented my desire to get to Paris, not necessarily to see all the sights, but to see the chocolate and the beautiful bakeries that I know I would get my hands on. Jenny Colgan also made me realize that the Scottish countryside is something that I desperately want to see and experience. The smells, the feel of the air, I definitely want it all. Now, Emily Henry, well, she helps me escape too, especially in all the people you meet on vacation, right? We didn't just get to go one place in that book. We went to vacation after vacation after vacation that left me with a bucket list full to the brim. And even if I'm sticking closer to home, Kate Claiborne gave me a New York escape, blending what I love, hand lettering, with a place that is actually quite possible for me to visit right now, living only a couple of hours away in New York City. So combined with the books that I'm reading, combined with the forced quarantine of COVID and with the view from my window that seriously stirred up my wanderlust, I'm looking this summer to take me places through the books that I'm reading. I'm going to satisfy that wanderlust through my TBR stack. And I've got 3 books that are going to take me places that hopefully could take you places too. Now, this is a little bit different than our other podcast episodes because I actually have not read any of these books. These books are literally on my current TBR stack, waiting for me to hop on a flight, dive in the pages, and go to a new destination. So I'm going to share these 3 books on my TBR stack. I'm going to read the description on Goodreads that got me so excited for it, and end with a little challenge, of course, to help you bring books like this into your own life as well. So up first, book number 1 is first on my TBR list, and that's One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. I have always wanted to visit Italy. Even if I didn't have a serious desire to travel when I was younger, Italy was always at the top of my list. And now that I have an Italian husband who would like to visit as well and really dig into the family roots he has there, the whole family is looking forward to one day an Italian vacation. Here's what Goodreads has to say about One Italian Summer. When Katie's mother dies, she is left reeling. Carol wasn't just Katie's mom, but her best friend and first phone call. She had all the answers, and now, when Katie needs her the most, she's gone. To make matters worse, their planned mother-daughter trip of a lifetime looms. 2 weeks in Positano, the magical town Carol spent the summer right before she met Katie's father. Katie has been waiting years for Carol to take her, and now she's faced with embarking on the adventure alone. But as soon as she steps onto the Amalfi coast, Katie begins to feel her mother's spirit. Buoyed by the stunning waters, beautiful cliffsides, delightful residents, and of course, delectable food, Katie feels herself coming back to life. And then Carol appears in the flesh, healthy, suntanned, and 30 years old. Katie doesn't understand what is happening or how. All she can focus on is that she has somehow impossibly gotten her mother back. Over the course of One Italian Summer, Katie gets to know Carol, not as her mother, but as the young woman before her. She is not exactly who Katie imagined she might be, however, and soon Katie must reconcile the mother who knew everything with the young woman who does not yet have a clue. Oh, can you imagine? I cannot wait to get my hands on this book. Not only am I going to be transported to the Italian countryside, but I'm going to have a mother-daughter family saga, which is one of the best kinds of fiction that I love to dig into. This checks all the boxes for me. I know it's going to have a strong sense of place. It has that family drama that I love to wrap my head around, and it's got characters that I know I'm going to relate to. And not only that, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some kind of lesson that I'm going to learn about mother-daughter relationships along the way. So that's first up in my stack, One Italian Summer by Rebecca Searle. Next up is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This cover is beautiful. The cover caught my eye. The description made me definitely want to pick it up. So here's what Goodreads has to say about Mexican Gothic. After receiving a frantic letter from her newlywed cousin begging for someone to save her from a mysterious doom, Naomi Taboda heads to High Place, a distant house in the Mexican countryside. She's not sure what she'll find. Her cousin's husband, a handsome Englishman, is a stranger, and Noemi knows little about the region. Noemi is also an unlikely rescuer. She's a glamorous debutante, and her chic gowns and perfect red lipstick are more suited for cocktail parties than amateur sleuthing. But she's also tough and smart, with an indomitable will, and she is not afraid. Not of her cousin's new husband, who is both menacing and alluring, not of his father, the ancient patriarch who seems to be fascinated by Noemi, and not even of the house itself, which begins to invade Noemi's dreams with vision of blood and doom. Her only ally in this inhospitable abode is the family's youngest son. Shy and gentle, he seems to want to help Noemi, but might also be hiding dark knowledge of his family's past. For there are many secrets behind the walls of High Place. The family's once colossal wealth and faded mining empire kept them from prying eyes. But as Noemi digs deeper, she unearths stories of violence and madness. And Noemi, mesmerized by the terrifying yet seductive world of High Place, may soon find it impossible to ever leave this enigmatic house behind. Admittedly, this is not the kind of book that I would tend to gravitate to. My comfort zone in books is realistic fiction, yes, but it's in stories, as I mentioned, that have family dramas, although this one certainly does. They are stories that are steeped with characters that I can relate to and learn from. There's drama, but not usually mystery, and there usually isn't any violence or fear of that kind of behavior in the books I tend to read. I read for comfort, and my book choice selects that. But if I'm looking for books to take me places, I want them to literally take me places to a location that I have not yet been to. And I want them to take me to new places in my reading life too. So this book is a little bit of a stretch for me, but I am definitely here for it. The description has that family saga that I love. I know I am going to get steeped in that strong sense of place and the Mexican culture. And it's going to be one that when I close that last page, I know I'm going to be glad that I pushed myself to give something different a try. You might think about that in your own reading life. Books can take us places physically, or I guess not physically, but geographically, but they can also push us out of our comfort zones as well. And starting with books that push you out of your comfort zones is a really great place to begin stretching that comfort zone in your actual life too. Now, the third book is Metropolis by B.A. Shapiro. So I very much loved The Authenticity Project by Claire Pooley. I loved how we met character after character and after character, and how entwined they were throughout the story based on this one notebook that circulated between them. So when I started looking for books that were like The Authenticity Project, so I could get more of that, Metropolis kept coming up on my list, whether it was from a Google search, from a reading list on a blog, or even recommendations from some of my bookish Facebook groups. But not only did it check that box, it checked the location box as well. It takes place in New York City. And I've heard, because I haven't read it yet, I've heard it definitely has a strong sense of place mixed in with a strong sense of character. So here's the description. In Metropolis, we meet 6 unforgettable characters who would never have met if not for their rental units at Metropolis Storage Warehouse. When a harrowing accident, or is it an accident, occurs in the building, each character is forced to consider their life circumstances. Sergey, a mentally unstable but brilliant street photographer who lives in his unit. Zach, the storage facility owner and ex-drug dealer who purchases Sergey's undeveloped photographs and discovers they contain clues to the mysterious accident. Marta, an undocumented immigrant hiding from ICE in her unit. Liddy, an abused wife and mother who is responsible for the accident, unless she intended it. Jason, a lawyer who has left his big firm and now practices out of his unit. And Rose, the office manager who takes kickbacks to let people live in the facility and has her own disintegrating family to deal with. The characters have different backgrounds. They are different races and religions. They're young and they're not so young. They are rich, poor, and somewhere in the middle. As they dip in and out of each other's stories and struggle to salvage their own lives, as well as discover the truth behind the accident, Metropolis traces how their interlocking narratives connect them and tear them apart. I'm definitely here for this one. I'm not so certain that this one's going to have as strong sense of place as Mexican Gothic and One Italian Summer will, but based on what I've heard from fellow bookish friends, it does entrench you in the big city life. Now, I live nowhere near the big city. Well, I live a couple of hours from New York City, but it's not a place that I get to often. But when I do, I love it. I greatly enjoy the change of pace. And so I'm hoping Metropolis will give me that character focus where all of those lives are intertwining together, and we have to figure out how, alongside of immersing me in a different setting that I am not particularly used to. So One Italian Summer is first, Mexican Gothic is second, and Metropolis is third. Those are the 3 books currently on my TBR stack for this summer to take me somewhere else. Now, I always like to suggest how you can bring this theme into your own life. And so the most obvious recommendation is that you can find a location, a destination, an experience, something that you want to have, and find a book that'll help get you there. But we can have even more fun with play on words here. I love book flights. Book flights are sets of books that help you dive deep, whether it's dive deep into a genre, into a topic, into a character, into an experience, you name it, you can create a book flight around it. It's modeled after beer flights and wine flights and coffee flights. And Anne Bogle from What Should I Read Next first introduced the term for me, and I loved it. Now, you could almost say this podcast is a series of book flights, right? Each week, I share 3 books that you need to know about. But it's especially relevant to today's episode because we can play with that word flight. Yes, a book flight is a collection of books focused on a common element. But what if we look at it as a book that, will literally put us on a flight to somewhere? We're talking about 3 books that will take us places. So I challenge you to create a book flight, a set of your own 2 or 3 or 4 books that could literally act as a plane flight to take you there metaphorically. So think of a location that you've always wanted to visit. Think of your bucket list and the places it would take you. Find a book that will satisfy that particular wanderlust. Go to Google, search for it. Go to your favorite blogs, search for it. Ask your librarian or your favorite local bookseller to suggest something. The idea is that even if you can travel this summer, but especially if you can't, let's travel somewhere together through the pages of our books. That's what I am here for all summer long. And hopefully it's not only going to satisfy my wanderlusts, but it's actually going to give it a kick in the pants too, so that I can make some plans to bring those bookish travel dreams to life, hopefully somewhere in the near future. So that's it for episode 4. If you create your book flight, I would love to see it. You can tag me at Affinito Lit and your favorite social media platform so that I can grow my TBR list too. Happy reading. Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at www.alitlife.com. You'll also find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life there, like book lists, notebooking ideas, personalized book recommendations, and an invitation to join my Get Literate members community. Each month, we take a deep dive into one bookish theme and work to bring it to life in our own lives. You'll get a monthly bibliotherapy book calendar with a book recommendation for every day of the month, bonus episodes, live book club sessions, and much more. Learn more at www.getliterate.co.